Shock troopers armed with heavy blasters incoming!
Hey guys, it's me, TheTacticalBrit, and today we're here with some Star Wars Battlefront gameplay, and I know this is something a lot of you have been looking forward to, and looking forward to seeing on the channel as well, and I'm just going to give you my overall impressions of the game from basically everything I've played up until this beta, and actually getting hands-on with what is not really the final product, but essentially not that far off of what we're going to be playing later this year. And I thought I'd just quickly talk about the general problems that people raised about the game and my kind of concerns with it and how those have actually panned out in the long run. Now, Star Wars Battlefront had what I'd like to call a critical start, shall we say. I mean, lots of people saw the game and they thought, okay, this is being made by DICE. Obviously, DICE have just come off the back of Battlefield 4, which wasn't their best run, so to speak, and ultimately the instinct was that this game is going to be either broken, bad, or is just not going to be what we want it to be. And I can safely say today that anybody who thought that is just so far out of depth, because this is probably one of the best games in terms of visuals, in terms of performance, and definitely fun that I've played in a very long time. It looks insane. Honestly, Frostbite 3 is just like, it's not even Frostbite 3 here, it's like this entire new engine that's just not being held back. It's like a whole different beast, and it's really incredible to see just how visually impressive Star Wars Battlefront is. And to finally be able to talk about how visually impressive it is performance-wise is awesome too. Now, on my current setup, which is an i7-4790K and a GTX 970, I'm getting, say, about a solid 80 to 120 FPS on Ultra at 1080p, and I think that's really damn impressive. It varies between maps, but the concerns surrounding how the game would look, how it would feel, how DICE would code this game, and would it be, you know, broken, or would it actually work properly, I think can be dismissed very easily. I wouldn't say completely, because of course it's still beta state, there's still a lot going on, but I feel as though the initial concerns of, okay, this is a DICE game, what have DICE games done recently, you know, I feel like that ideology can just go straight out of the window when you finally get to play this beta, because you'll get to see exactly how impressive everything really is. There was a lot of concern surrounding the authenticity of the game, how things would be balanced, how everything in the Star Wars universe would work as a video game, and of course we have had previous Star Wars games, but this is the first one being done by DICE as a shooter, and I wouldn't say really a hardcore shooter, but just a shooter in general. And the balancing, I have to say, has improved. It isn't perfect. There are some things, of course, that are still to be added to the game. But there's definitely an element of change in the air in terms of balancing. I feel like that's something that's going to have to be gone over quite significantly, because of course you have all these guns and all of them are laser based weapons, so there's lots of gun mechanics that immediately are being thrown out the window in terms of hindering and how you can actually set aside a gun from another gun to make them more preferable or have their ups and downs, and I feel like that's a challenge they're facing. I feel like it's something this beta is here to rectify, and I certainly feel as though the balance probably isn't at its best at the moment and can do with some improvement. Now, a good example is the sniper rifle pickup which is in the game, which is an absolute monster. This thing can tear people apart, and it doesn't necessarily take too long to actually recharge as well, so just one example of how balancing needs to be looked into. As it goes for player balancing, everybody looked at 20 versus 20 and they're like, is that going to be enough? Now, I've always maintained the stance that 20 versus 20 is going to be more than enough considering you're playing a third/first person shooter, but people were just bluntly adamant that that was not going to be the case and that we needed more players in the game in order to make it interesting. And once you actually play the beta, you can finally see that I was right and that 20 versus 20 is in fact perfect for the game itself. It runs really well. Everything is really chaotic as well considering it's a 20v20, and I feel like the whole idea of more is better is definitely something that we need to sidestep and avoid with Star Wars Battlefront, because of course in this scenario more was not better. 20 versus 20 certainly suits the flow of gameplay, and I feel like this is a general pattern that we're going to have to look at throughout the course of development of this game, and just at the launch as well, is that lots of people have questioned the developers on so many different aspects of the game, and in some circumstances correctly, because we need to know about them. But that kind of loss of faith and loss of, you know, sort of respect for DICE as a company from Battlefield 4, which is likely where it's come from, I feel as though needs to be put behind us, because they have made some executive decisions about this game, some of which were controversial, but ultimately when you finally get to play this thing, you'll just understand that everything that they did for a reason, and they did it because they know what they were doing. And I feel like having that kind of trust and faith in the company again is certainly what will improve Star Wars Battlefront in terms of beta feedback, but also what will kind of remove this air of negativity around the game as well, because I've been noticing as the beta's been coming up and as the launch date is coming up, people are getting incredibly salty and negative about it. Maybe it's just because I do Battlefield and, you know, DICE, Battlefield, that kind of connotation there, but just the general field and consensus I've seen from some of the YouTubers I watch in their comment sections has just been this absolute aurora of negativity that I feel as though is going to be dismissed or starting to get dismissed. So now that I've addressed the concerns, let's talk about the actual game itself, and just a quick summary or synopsis I can provide of what Battlefront is like. Now, yes, it is true, this is not the most hardcore shooter, but at the same time, honestly, it's probably one of the funnest, kind of best games I've played for a good while now. It has this incredible, stunning array of visuals, this incredible, stunning array of audio sound files as well, and this is probably the most authentic Star Wars game you will ever get to play. This looks better than some of the films, okay? It even sounds better than some of the films. That's how impressive this game is. And I feel like if you're a Star Wars fan, the second you jump into a match, you are going to immediately appreciate the authenticity that this game has to offer. It's a fun shooter. I've got to admit, again, it's not, you know, the hardcore tactics kind of thing. It's more of a, I would pick up and play this and probably have a really good time playing it for a good couple of hours. And in a way, I feel like that could be beneficial to the game, and I think people will actually enjoy that kind of aspect that it has to offer. And overall, I just have to say that it's just flat out impressive. Like, I've been saying this for weeks and months. This is Frostbite 3 untamed, and this is no Generation 3 with all those crappy statistics and hardware that they had to put up with. This is the first time DICE have been kind of let off the leash and been told to go at a project to the fullest extent, and it's totally paid off. And I feel like you guys are going to absolutely adore Star Wars Battlefront once you get hands-on with it, be it during the beta or when the game comes out. So guys, that's it for me, the Tactical Brit. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure you hit that like or subscribe button down below. In fact, hit both of them. Why did I say all? That's just silly. You guys know the deal. Just make sure you hit those buttons down below. And of course, if you want to see more Star Wars Battlefront content, this is the place to be over the next couple of days. As always, lads, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon in another video.